Well, we've just had Remembrance Day yesterday in the UK, and it's a time of reflection and just remembering all of those people who gave their lives in World War I and World War II, and in all the other conflicts that are going on around the world. And on Saturday, it would have been my grandmother's birthday. My grandmother's dad died in the First World War before she was born, so she never knew him. And a few years ago, my parents found his grave in Thiepval in northern France. And so every year we go to northern France and pay our respects. And a few years ago, I took some of my history students, which was amazing. So in this week's Doodle Club, we're going to be looking at poppies, because poppies have that wonderful quality of being fragile and yet springing up from the grounds of desolation. And in those fields in northern France, after the devastation of the First World War, we saw poppies all over the place. And so poppies became a symbol of remembrance, and that's what we do today. So it's going to be a bit more thoughtful, I think, this week. Welcome if you are new. My name is Cate Field. I'm an artist, teacher and speaker, and I am passionate about helping people find their creative way and helping you to develop that. So welcome back, those lovely ones who have been with me for quite a long time now. I really appreciate all your comments, your thoughts, and it's just a lovely environment here. So we're going to be using very basic watercolours. You don't need anything fancy, and we're just going to dive straight in. The process of creating art can be a very mindful experience, and this is really what I'm going to be focusing on in this tutorial. We are going to be drawing and painting poppies, but we're also really going to be looking at how we can just explore the process and enjoy it. So we're not focusing on the outcome at all. We are just thinking about the process. I'm using my Koh-i-Noor Analinki paints. They are very inexpensive. You don't need to have the really expensive paints at all. I've sprayed some water into my sketchbook, and I'm just going to start by creating some petals. I've been looking at photographs of poppies, and I have actually got some poppies in a field near to where I live. So I was looking at those and just looking at the delicate nature, the fragility, I think, is something that I was sort of very, very interested in. And I think this is why the poppy has become so symbolic of remembering and of struggle, because when we think about the delicate nature of a poppy, I think that we can forget that actually quite often poppies will spring up on the grass verges next to a motorway. They will appear just in a country lane and in the cracks of the pavement. So this is very sort of wet, and I'm just dabbing my brush, keeping it very, very wet. So the paper you use does need to have a bit of substance to it, but you don't have to have watercolour paper. You could use wallpaper. Wallpaper lining paper is great. I'm just sort of putting these like this. We're going to do about 3 different styles I want to show you. And I'm really, again, I'm emphasizing for you to enjoy the process, the feel of the paint as it goes onto the paper, the feel of the brush in your hand, and just observing how the paint moves around. So again, I'm just filling this page, really thinking about why I'm doing this. And for me, I'm thinking about my grandmother, who I miss very much. She died in 2007, and I miss her. And there's lots of times when I sort of think of something and I imagine her response. She was full of little gems of wisdom. And yes, I miss her. And she never knew her dad. So he died in the First World War. And she never knew him. And it was only fairly recently that we found his grave, thanks to the War Memorial, the Commonwealth War Graves website, which is fantastic. So if you think that you have a relative who fought in the Second World War, their research facilities are amazing. And Thiepval, where my great-grandfather is buried, is quite an astonishing memorial. And when we went to northern France last year, we also looked up the graves of my husband's great uncles, one of whom was Canadian and is buried at the Canadian cemetery as well, which is also quite astonishing. So I've got those there. I'm going to leave them to dry, and then we're going to put in a little bit of detail. So while I'm waiting for that one to dry, I'm going to do a slightly different technique, still using my sort of oranges. This is dry, and what we're going to do is just sort of look at the poppy from a different angle, as you'll see in a moment. Just sort of putting a bit, leaving a little bit of white there, bringing that bit out like this, like that one. So I'm creating this sort of feathery type effect. I do love painting flowers, and I love flowers anyway, but wildflowers in particular. I'm just going to have this here. I'm just going to add a tiny little bit of the brown in here, mixed with some moss green. And the other sort of amazing thing about poppies is their stems are so thin, and then they have these gorgeous sort of feathery type leaves. So I'm just sort of looking at those, just using the tip of my brush like that. Putting that in there. I'm just going to do some more in the same sort of, just sort of a different sort of angle. Just putting a bit of water on there, and we can add more details a little bit later when those things have dried a little bit. But it is that lovely delicacy that that I love about poppies. Just going to bring that again, as if that head is just sort of flopping down that way. And again, these lovely delicate leaves sort of coming out of there. And this is on a separate piece of paper, and I think what I'm going to do with this one is I will cut these out and use them as elements in an art journal, and I'll do some poems, something like that, to go with them. And if that's something that you would like to do, then you could create some of your own poems, or you could find I've got several books of poetry that I love referring back to, and again I will use poetry as a source of inspiration. Let's just do that here. So close to where I live are some bright yellow poppies. They've kind of sprung up, which are just, again, so delicate, just by the roadside. Yeah, I'm just sort of bringing those like that, so you can see how this style is slightly different. And I will wait for it to dry, and then I'll add a little bit more detail. I'm still on another sheet of paper here, and I'm just going to do a slightly different design. Oh, just popping my glasses on, they just fell off. Let's again, I'm just using the tip of my brush, and I am drawing with the paintbrush, sort of trying to pick out those sort of delicate petals. So my brush is damp rather than very wet, and the paper is dry. And I'm just going to add, just picking up bits of the yellow really. There we go. As if the sunlight is falling. So it's just a slightly different technique. And again, sort of bring out, move your poppy around, look at it in a different way. This, the petals aren't kind of perfect, are they? Some might be a little bit wind damaged, or that kind of thing, but that I think absolutely adds to the charm. Just having that kind of feathery, just got a little bit of water, just a little bit too much. Just going to take a bit of water off there. Just using a bit of tissue on that. Doing those, and then bringing this one like that. There we go. So I hope you are well. Thank you so much for your comments on my previous tutorials. It was so kind of you. This is really lovely, a lovely community, it really is. There we go. And let me know what you're doing, if you're remembering someone from your family, kind of thing. And what you do in different parts of the world. Always really interested in what's happening. Not just the weather. Do like to have a catch up of the weather, which we are still in fog here, which we seem to have been in for a week now. A week of fog. There we go, just putting in these bits here. I like to do my petals first and then do the stems, but you work out a way that works for you. As I say all the time, there's no right or wrong way to paint or create art. Yes, there are some sort of rules of design and colour theory and that sort of thing, but when it comes to the actual process of making, we really have to do our own thing. And this is what I stress to my students all the time, is that they need to find their own way. I can show them techniques, I can show them what I do, but they need to work it out for themselves. And I taught my little ones this week, which was just lovely. And we were doing autumn leaves and silver birch trees and things like that. It was just lovely. So you see, I'm just filling this page at the end. Just a little bit more water on that one. I haven't put together a plan. I really wanted this to be quite mindful. And I will be doing some of these for myself. For my journal, I think I'll write some poems, pop those into a little art journal. So I've put those in like that. Now I'm just going to go in with some of the stems. Again, these stems are so delicate, aren't they? Really are. It's amazing that they kind of stand up, but they do. Let's do that in like that. Let's put that one over like that. So just putting in a few. So have a think about what you want to do, the reasons why. I always think it's quite nice to have a reason, even if your reason is, I just want to stop. I just want to stop the world for a bit. But for me, I'm going to be painting my poppies and remembering my grandmother, who I miss hugely, and my great-grandfather, who I never knew. Yes, putting that one in there. Let's give these ones some stems as well, otherwise they look like they're just floating in midair. And let me know if you've also been to the war graves in northern France and Belgium, and your experience, or if you're thinking that you would like to go. Just pop those there, like that one. And then I'm going to go back to the first one that we did. So I've come back to this one. It's largely dry now. Some of it is still, it's a little bit damp, but that's okay.
And then what we're going to do is take some of these petals and just start to put in a little bit more detail as we're kind of coming through this like this. And again, I'm putting in this just with the tip of my brush, just so that you can see some of the lines, just a little bit. Just kind of gives it a little bit more definition. Bringing that. Really want to keep it light, showing the delicate nature of the petals, like this. Just kind of that feathery. Like this. A bit of orange. Putting those in like this. And then I'm going to take a little bit of the brown and then just start to put in the little head. Goes into that middle bit. Like that. I'm going to keep those ones quite fluid. I'm going to have a work on this one. Let's make sure you can see that. Again, just, oh, that's too wet. Just get a little bit of tissue on that one. So I'm going to put the tissue on the brush because it was just too wet. I wasn't paying attention. Yeah, the same sort of idea as the previous one. And getting just some of those veins of the petal, which I think can look really lovely. I get that idea that the petal is just floating in the air. It's a symbol of our memories. Like this. Just you can see that the paint that I did before is there in the background. Yeah, don't be afraid of just trying something out and seeing what happens. Again, this is in my sketchbook, and I use my sketchbooks as references. I'll develop ideas and take an idea and see what else I can do with it. This one is still a bit wet, and so is this one, but I'm just going to leave that one for the moment. It's going to come out into this bit. Can you see that paint is dispersing a little bit too much? So I am going to leave that one to dry a little bit more, but I think this one down the bottom is dry enough. So again, it's not that it's wrong. I could do some work on this one and it will have a different sort of effect. But the effect that I really want on this page is the fluid colours underneath, and then little details of the lines and veins of the poppy petals. And I wouldn't get that if it's too wet. There we go. And of course, in different parts of the world, poppies are different colours. You can get sort of purple, very deep purple poppies, and poppies that are almost black. And they're just such a beautiful flower, I think. I'm just going to do a little bit more in there. Like that, just dark brown. And then I'm going to do some stems. Just bring that kind of the delicate stems and leaves like this. Before we go back to the others. That one there. I've come back to this one. Again, I'm just going to do a little bit of detail, not very much, so I quite like how it is. I am going to cut these ones out actually. Let's just put in a few little lines like this. Let's pick up that bit in there. And I'm going to write a few lines of poetry, I think. Perhaps a haiku. And put that into my journal. Like that. I have a few tutorials on art journaling and the things that I do, if you'd like to check those out. I will put them in the link and in the description. Let me just do a tiny little bit more on that one. Then I think we're done. Just a little bit in there. Oh, like that. So I've put my smaller pieces into my sketchbook, and I've started to write a few little haikus, just sort of about poppies and memory and remembrance. And I like making my own elements. I've talked about this before in previous tutorials. You can buy beautiful elements, absolutely, but it's quite nice to just make your own. I've put these onto black paper and then stuck them in, and I'll do some more writing. I might do some more illustrations directly into the book. And with this one, I might do a few more details, perhaps with an ink pen. I'll wait until it's completely dry to do that. So I hope you've got some ideas of things that you could do with your work, taking these sort of elements and ideas, and I really hope that you have enjoyed this tutorial. And if you haven't liked and subscribed, and this is something that you think that you might like, that would be really lovely. And I really love your comments, so perhaps pop a little comment or just a little heart, just so that I know that you're here and we're all here together.
I do hope you've enjoyed that tutorial and that you found a way to be mindful when you're creating your poppies, and perhaps you'll find a way to take these techniques into your creative journey. And I'll see you next time. And if you'd like to see some more, you could look at this one or this one. Take care. Bye bye.